The ground shook under Captain Do-Yun's feet as another explosion lit up the night sky. Red flames painted the colony buildings in hellish light, and smoke filled the air with the smell of burning metal and worse things he didn't want to think about. The Kepler 442b mining colony had been peaceful just hours ago. Now it looked like the end of the world. "Captain, we need to leave now." Pilot Soman's voice crackled through his comm device. She was back at their ship, the Harmony's Edge, keeping the engines ready for a quick escape. "Those hegemony ships are getting closer." Do-Yun looked around at the chaos. People were running everywhere, most of them not human. The Velkans who lived here looked nothing like humans. They stood about 7 feet tall with smooth blue-green skin that looked wet all the time. Their big silver eyes reflected light like mirrors, and they moved with a strange grace even when they were scared and running for their lives. "Not yet," Do-Hyun said into his comm. "We can't leave these people." His engineer Min-ho came running up, his face dirty with soot. "Captain, I've been talking to their leader. They need help bad, real bad." "How bad?" "This is all they have left. Their home world is gone. Their ships are destroyed. This colony is the last place where their people live." Another explosion, closer this time. The ground cracked under their feet, and Do-Hyun had to grab Min-ho's arm to keep from falling. In the distance, he could see the dark shapes of hegemony warships moving across the sky like deadly clouds. "Where's their leader?" Do-Hyun asked. "This way." They ran through the burning streets. Velkans were everywhere, carrying children and old ones, trying to save what they could. Their big eyes looked so sad and scared that it made Do-Hyun's chest hurt. These people had done nothing wrong. They just wanted to live in peace, mining rocks on a planet far from anyone else. The hegemony didn't care about that. They wanted to control everything, and they killed anyone who got in their way. Min-ho led him to a tall building that wasn't on fire yet. Inside, they found the Velkan leader in a room full of computers and screens showing the battle outside. The leader was old even by Velkan standards. His skin had turned more silver than blue, and he moved slowly like every step hurt. "Elder Thos," Min-ho said, "this is Captain Do-Hyun." The old Velkan looked up at Do-Hyun with those huge silver eyes. Tears were running down his face, actual tears, just like humans cried. "Captain," he said in perfect English, though his voice sounded like water flowing over stones, "you should not be here. This place will be death soon." "We came to talk about trade agreements," Do-Hyun said. "But that can wait. What do you need?" Elder Thos laughed, but it was a bitter sound. "What do we need? We need a miracle. We need 30,000 of my people to disappear before the hegemony finds them. We need ships we don't have and time we don't have, and—" He stopped talking and just stared at Do-Hyun. "You are human." "Yes. Humans fight the hegemony too. When we have to." The building shook again. Dust fell from the ceiling and the lights flickered. Elder Thos grabbed Do-Yun's arm with a hand that felt cold and wet. "Captain, I will beg, if I must. My people are dying. In 1 hour, maybe 2, this colony will be ash. 30,000 Velkans will die, and our species will be extinct." Do-Hyun felt his heart beating faster. "What about other colonies? Other places your people live?" "Gone. All gone. This is all we have left." Elder Thos fell to his knees, something that looked painful for someone his age. "I have nothing to offer you. No money, no trade goods, no weapons. But if you save my people, I swear by the deep waters of our lost home, we will owe you a debt that can never be repaid." "Get up," Do-hyun said, helping the old alien stand. "Don't kneel to me." "Then you will help?" Do-hyun looked around the room. Through the windows, he could see more fires starting. Hegemony fighters were shooting at anything that moved. His ship was small, just a diplomatic vessel with a crew of 5. It wasn't meant for rescues or fights or anything like this. His comm crackled. "Captain," it was Medic Gina's voice. "I'm at the refugee center. There are thousands of people here, and more coming every minute. They're hurt, they're scared, and they have nowhere to go. Can we fit them on the ship?" he asked. 30,000 people on our ship? "Captain, we have room for maybe 50 passengers if we pack them in tight." Elder Thos was watching Do-hyun's face carefully. "You cannot save us all," he said quietly. "I understand. Save who you can. Even a few hundred would mean our species might survive somewhere." Do-hyun touched his comm again. "Minho, how crazy can we get with the ship modifications?" "What do you mean?" "I mean strip out everything we don't need. Life support, artificial gravity in some sections, furniture, everything. How many people? Could we fit if we really tried?" There was a long pause. "Captain, are you thinking what I think you're thinking?" "Maybe. That's insane and dangerous and probably impossible. But," another pause, "give me 4 hours and I might be able to fit 3,000 people. Maybe 4,000 if we're really lucky and nobody minds being very uncomfortable." Elder Thos was staring at them. "You cannot fit 30,000. "No," Do-hyun said, "but maybe we can make multiple trips." "There is no time for multiple trips. The hegemony will be here soon." Do-hyun looked out the window at the burning colony. He thought about his small crew, his small ship, and the impossible job they were talking about. He thought about 30,000 people who would die if nobody helped them. He thought about what his mother had taught him when he was little. Sometimes doing the right thing wasn't about whether you could succeed. Sometimes it was about whether you were willing to try. "Elder Thos," he said, "get your people ready to move. We're going to save as many as we can." "Captain, you don't understand. The debt, don't worry about any debt. Sometimes doing the right thing is payment enough." Elder Thos stared at him for a long moment. Then the old Velkin smiled, the first smile Do-hyun had seen from any of them today. "You are a good human, Captain Do-hyun. I will remember your name." Outside, the hegemony ships were getting closer, and time was running out. But for the first time since this started, Do-hyun felt something that might have been hope. They were going to try to do the impossible, and maybe, just maybe, they would succeed. The Harmony's Edge had never seen anything like this. Engineer Minho crawled through maintenance tunnels, pulling out everything that wasn't absolutely needed to keep people alive. Chairs, tables, decorative panels, even some of the floor plating. It all had to go. "Gina!" he called to the medic. "I need you to help me disconnect these gravity generators." "Are you crazy?" Gina's voice came from somewhere deep in the ship. "People will be floating around." "Better floating than dead." Minho pulled out another heavy panel and tossed it toward the cargo bay door. "We need every inch of space." Captain Do-hyun stood in what used to be the main passenger lounge, watching Velkins stream aboard. They came in families, parents carrying children, adults helping old ones walk, everyone moving as fast as they could. Their big silver eyes looked around the cramped ship with fear and hope mixed together. "How many so far?" Do-hyun asked Communications Officer Kyung. Kyung looked at her tablet. 2,800, and we're already way over safe capacity. Through the ship's windows, they could see the hegemony fleet getting closer. The big dark ships moved like hunting animals, destroying everything in their path. The colony's defense systems were already dead, and the few Velkin ships that tried to fight were turned into burning debris in seconds. "Captain," Pilot Soman's voice came over the ship's speakers. "I'm picking up hegemony communications. They're going to start bombing this area in 20 minutes. 20 minutes. Do-Yun felt his stomach drop. They had maybe 7,000 Velkins on board now, and more were still coming. That left over 20,000 people with nowhere to go. Elder Thos appeared beside him, moving through the crowd of his people like a father checking on his children. "Captain, you must leave now. Take who you have and go. We're not full yet. You are more than full. This ship will break apart if you try to carry more people." Do-Yun knew the old Velkan was right. The Harmony's edge was groaning and creaking under the weight. They had people packed into every corner, every hallway, every space where a person could fit. The air recycling systems were working overtime just to keep everyone breathing. "Minho," he called. "How much more can we take?" Minho's voice came back strained and tired. "We're at the breaking point now, Captain. The hull supports are showing stress fractures. If we take on much more weight, we might not make it off the ground." Elder Thos put his cold, wet hand on Do-Hyun's shoulder. "You have saved 7,000 of my people. That is a miracle already. Please take them to safety." Do-Hyun looked around at the crowded ship. Children were crying, adults were holding each other, and everyone was looking at him like he could perform magic. Outside, he could see more Velkins running toward the ship, thousands more who needed help. "How long to get to the nearest safe system?" he asked Soman. 3 days at maximum speed, Captain. 3 days there, 3 days back. Even if they could make multiple trips, there wasn't enough time. The hegemony would turn this whole area into a graveyard long before they could come back. "Captain," Kyung said quietly, "I'm getting reports from other human ships in the area. There are 3 other vessels that could help with the evacuation. How far away? 2 days minimum. Too far. Way too far." Do-Hyun stood in the middle of his overcrowded ship and tried to think of a solution that didn't exist. 7,000 people saved. 23,000 left to die. The math was simple and horrible. Then he had an idea. A terrible, dangerous, probably stupid idea. "Kyung," he said, "send a message to those other human ships. Tell them to meet us at the refuge station in the Kepler system. Tell them to bring every transport ship they can find." "What are you thinking, Captain?" Do-Yun looked at Elder Thos. "How long can your people survive in the colony's emergency bunkers?" "Maybe 6 hours if the hegemony doesn't find them. The bunkers are deep underground." "Minho!" Do-Yun called. "I need you to push the engines past their safety limits. How fast can you get us to refuge station?" "Captain, that's dangerous. If the engines fail." "How fast?" A pause. 18 hours if I really push it. But we might not have engines for the trip back." "Do it." Elder Thos stared at him. "Captain, you cannot come back. The hegemony will control this area by then." "Maybe," Do-Hyun said. "But maybe we can make them think twice about it." He activated the ship's communication system. "This is Captain Do-Hyun of the human vessel Harmony's Edge." He broadcast on all frequencies, including the ones the hegemony used. "We are evacuating civilians from this colony. Any interference with this humanitarian mission will be considered an act of war against the Human Federation." Elder Thos's big eyes got even bigger. "Captain, The Human Federation will not go to war over my people. The hegemony doesn't know that. Salmon's voice came over the speakers. Captain, hegemony ships are changing course. They're moving to intercept us. Can we outrun them? Not with this much weight, but... Captain, I'm seeing something weird. There are human military ships jumping into the system. A lot of them. Do-hyun felt his heart stop. What? Kyung was working frantically at her station. Captain, it's Admiral Park's fleet. The whole 3rd battle group just arrived. On the main screen, they could see them. Sleek human warships dropping out of hyperspace like angels of death. The hegemony fleet suddenly found itself outnumbered 3-1. How did they get here so fast? Do-hyun asked. They were already on their way, Kyung said, reading incoming messages. Intelligence picked up hegemony fleet movements heading this way. Admiral Park was coming to investigate. Elder Thos was watching the screen with wonder. Your people came to help mine. Looks like it. The hegemony fleet was backing off, not wanting to fight a full human battle group over one small colony. But Do-hyun knew they would be back as soon as the human ships left. Admiral Park's voice came over the communication system. Captain Do-hyun, this is Admiral Park. We're here to assist with the evacuation. My ships can carry 25,000 refugees. Elder Thos started crying again. But this time, they looked like happy tears. Admiral, Do-hyun replied, we have 7,000 on board and 23,000 still on the ground. The colony has maybe 6 hours of life support left in the emergency bunkers. Understood. We'll have them out of there in 4 hours. Good work, Captain. The Harmony's Edge limped toward the human fleet, its hull groaning under the weight of 7,000 refugees. Around them, human warships moved into position to protect the evacuation. Elder Thos, Do-hyun said, your people are going to be safe. The old Velkin looked at him with those huge silver eyes full of tears. Captain, your people came to help strangers. You risked everything for people you had never met. Sometimes that's what people do, Do-hyun said. I will remember this, Captain Do-hyun. I will remember all your names. You, Minho, Gina, Soman, and Kyung. My people will remember what you did for us today. Just take care of your people, Elder. That's all we want. As the Harmony's Edge docked with one of Admiral Park's ships to transfer the refugees, Do-hyun watched the Velkins leaving his ship. They looked back at him and his crew with something that went deeper than gratitude. It looked like they were memorizing their faces. Elder Thos was the last to leave. He stopped at the airlock and turned back to Do-hyun. Captain, he said, you saved my entire species today. That is a debt that can never be repaid. You don't owe us anything, Elder. The old Velkin smiled. Perhaps not, but we will remember anyway. 50 years had passed since the evacuation of Kepler 442b, and Dr. Yoonji had never seen anything like the planet Haven. The Velkins had built something amazing here, a world that looked like art and science had fallen in love and created a paradise together. Cities grew like living things, with buildings that curved and flowed like they had been shaped by gentle hands instead of built with machines. Canals filled with clean water ran between structures that seemed to breathe. There, walls changing color with the time of day. Gardens were everywhere, growing food and medicine and beautiful flowers that made the air smell sweet. It's incredible, Yoonji said to her guide, a young Velkin scientist named Bora. How did you build all this in just 50 years? Bora's silver eyes reflected the morning light as she smiled. We had help from many species, but mostly we learned to work with living things instead of against them. That is the Velkin way. They were walking through what Bora called the Science District, where Dr. Yunji would be working for the next year. She was here to study Velkan biotechnology, their ability to use living organisms to create tools, buildings, and medicine that was far beyond human understanding. Dr. Yunji, Bora said as they passed a fountain that seemed to be made of living. Coral, may I ask you something? Of course. Are you related to the humans who saved us? Yunji stopped walking. What do you mean? Do-hyun, Minho, Gina, Somin, and Kyung. The 5 heroes who rescued our people from extinction. Are you family to any of them? No, I don't think so. Why? Bora looked confused. You are human. I thought perhaps you were their daughter or granddaughter. Do you know about them? I mean, it was 50 years ago? Of course we know about them. Bora's voice sounded surprised. Every child learns their names. Every family tells the story. How could we forget the humans who gave us life? As they walked through the city, Yunji started to notice things that seemed strange. When they stopped at a food vendor, the seller refused to take her money. No payment from humans, he said with a bow. It is our honor to serve you. At a medical clinic where Bora was getting some routine treatment, the doctor insisted on checking Yunji too, even though she wasn't sick. Human health is precious to us, the doctor explained. We must make sure you are well. Children on the bide street would stop and stare at her with their big silver eyes, whispering to each other. When she smiled and waved, they would bow respectfully before running away giggling. Bora, Yunji said as they sat by one of the canals eating lunch. This is all very nice, but I have to ask, why is everyone treating me like I'm someone special? I'm just a scientist. You are human, Bora said. Like that explained everything. So you are the children of those who saved us. The blood of heroes flows in all humans. Yunji shook her head. That's not how genetics work. Just because some humans did something good doesn't mean all humans are related to them. Bora looked at her with those big, serious eyes. Dr. Yunji, do you know the story of the evacuation? I know the basic facts. Some Velkans were trapped on a mining colony, and human ships helped evacuate them. That is not the story we tell. Bora stood up and gestured for Yunji to follow her. They walked through the city center until they reached a tall building made of what looked like living wood. Inside was a large circular room with walls covered in moving images, holograms that showed scenes from 50 years ago. This is the Hall of Memory, Bora said. Every Velkan child comes here to learn about the 5 who saved us. The holograms showed the burning colony, the desperate evacuation, and 5 humans working desperately to save people they had never met. Yunji watched Captain Do-yun promising to help Elder Thos. She saw Minho tearing apart his own ship to make room for refugees. She saw Gina treating injured Velkans while bombs fell outside. She saw Somin pushing the ship's engines beyond safe limits to get people to safety. She saw Kyung coordinating with human warships to complete the rescue. 30,000 people, Bora said quietly. Our entire species. They saved all of us when they could have saved none of us. At the center of the hall stood a statue made of the same living wood as the building. It showed 5 humans standing together, their faces carved with careful detail. Below their feet were words in both Velkan script and English. Do-hyun, Minho, Gina, Somin, and Kyung, the 5 who remembered us when no one else would. They didn't just save our bodies, Bora continued. They saved our future. Every Velkan alive today exists because of what they did. An old Velkan approached them, moving, slowly but with dignity. His skin had the silver color that came with great age, and his eyes held the depth that came with seeing many years pass. "This is Elder Hyunwoo," Bora said with deep respect. "He was there during the evacuation." "You are human," Elder Hyunwoo said to Yoonji. His voice carried the musical quality that all older Velkans had. "I can see the strength in you that we remember from the five." "Elder, I'm just a scientist. I'm not related to the people who helped you." "All humans are related in the ways that matter," the elder replied. "You carry the same spirit that made 5 strangers risk everything for people they had never met. But elder, most humans don't even know this story happened." Elder Hyunwoo smiled sadly. "Humans forget their own goodness. That is why we remember it for you." He led them to another part of the hall where the walls showed more recent images. Velkans working in laboratories, healing sick aliens from other worlds, sharing their biotechnology with anyone who needed it. "We became healers because humans showed us what healing looked like," Elder Hyunwoo explained. "We help others because others helped us. But why remember it so strongly after 50 years? Dr. Yoonji," the elder said, "your people have a saying, 'Time heals all wounds.' We have a different saying, 'Time reveals all debts.' The longer we live with the gift the five gave us, the more precious it becomes." They spent the rest of the day in the Hall of Memory. Yoonji learned that every major building in the city had a small shrine to the 5 humans. She learned that Velkan children's first words often included the names Do-hyun, Minho, Gina, Somin, and Kyung. She learned that no Velkan could legally harm a human. It was written into their constitution as the highest crime possible. "We made a promise that day," Elder Hyunwoo told her as the sun was setting. "Elder Thoth swore that we would owe your people a debt that could never be repaid. Some debts get smaller with time. This debt only grows larger." "What kind of debt?" Yoonji asked. "The kind that calls us to action when your people need help. The kind that makes us wake up every day and ask, how can we honor what the 5 did for us?" As they walked back through the city in the evening light, Yoonji saw the Velkan world differently. Every canal, every building, every garden was part of a civilization that existed because 5 humans had cared enough to risk everything for strangers. "Bora," she said, "what would happen if humans were in danger? Real danger, like your people were 50 years ago?" Bora stopped walking and looked at her with those big silver eyes that reflected the setting sun like mirrors. "Dr. Yoonji," she said seriously, "we would give everything we have. Our ships, our technology, our lives if necessary. We would do for humans what humans did for us. Even though most humans don't even remember helping you. Especially because of that. Honor is not about being remembered. Honor is about remembering." That night, as Yoonji lay in her guest quarters, she thought about the 5 humans whose names were spoken with reverence on an alien world. They had died decades ago, probably never knowing that their actions had created an entire civilization of friends among the stars. She thought about Elder Thoth's promise, and wondered if anyone in human space even knew it existed. She wondered, what would happen if humanity ever needed that promise to be kept? Outside her window, the city of Haven glowed softly in the darkness, a testament to the power of remembered kindness and unpaid debts. The message came to Ambassador Tae-hyun at 0300 hours Earth Standard Time. He was pulled from deep sleep by his emergency communicator, buzzing with the priority code that meant civilization was ending. "Ambassador, you need to see this now," came the voice of his aide, Ming Yu. The young man's voice was shaking. "It's everywhere. Every human colony, every station, every ship." Taehyun pulled on his diplomatic uniform and rushed to the embassy's communications center. What he saw on the screens made his blood turn cold. Colony after colony was going dark. The reports came in like a drumbeat of doom. New Shanghai colony. No response. Europa mining station. No response. The agricultural worlds of the Centauri system. Silence. Hundreds of worlds where billions of humans lived and worked and raised families, all going quiet one by one. What's causing it? Taehyun asked, though part of him already knew he wouldn't like the answer. Dr. Jaewon, the embassy's medical officer, looked up from his data pad with hollow eyes. "It's a plague, Ambassador, but not a natural one. This is a bioweapon, and it's designed specifically to kill humans." "How specifically?" "It only affects human DNA. Other species are completely immune. It spreads through the air, through water, through any form of contact. Once you're infected, you have maybe 3 days before." Dr. Jaewon didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. "How many colonies have reported infections?" "All of them, sir. Every human world we've had contact with in the last week is either infected or under quarantine." Ambassador Taehyun felt like he was falling into a deep, dark hole. "What about Earth?" "Quarantined. They've shut down all space traffic to try to slow the spread, but—" Dr. Jaewon shook his head. "Sir, at this rate, our entire species will be extinct within 6 months." The next few days passed in a blur of desperate communications. Taehyun reached out to every allied species in the galaxy, begging for help. The response was always the same. Sympathy, offers of prayers and good wishes, but no real help. The Ardonian Republic sent medical supplies, but their doctors couldn't understand human biology well enough to create a cure. The Silicon Collective offered to preserve human culture in their databanks after everyone was dead. The Crystalline Empire promised to remember humanity fondly. Everyone was sorry. No one could help. "There has to be something," Taehyun said during a staff meeting on the 5th day after the plague began. "Some species with advanced biotechnology, someone who understands biological systems well enough to fight this thing." "Sir," Mingyu said, quietly, "there is one possibility." "What?" "The Velkans. They're supposed to be master biotechnicians. Their planet Haven is famous for biological sciences." Dr. Jaewon looked up from his reports. "I've heard of them. They do incredible work with living systems. But, Ambassador, they're not exactly a major power. Why would they help us?" Taehyun thought about it. The Velkans were a peaceful species that mostly kept to themselves. They had good relations with human space, but nothing special. They had no reason to risk their own people helping humans fight a plague that didn't affect them. "It's worth trying," he decided. "Mingyu, set up a communication with Velkan leadership. Tell them we need to discuss an urgent medical crisis." The response came faster than expected. Within hours, a Velkan transport ship arrived at the embassy station. The aliens who came aboard moved with the strange grace their species was known for, their big silver eyes taking in everything around them. Their leader introduced herself as Elder Sumi. She was old even by Velkan standards, her skin more silver than the blue-green of younger Velkans. When she spoke, her voice had the musical quality that came with great age. "Ambassador Taehyun," she said, "we have heard about the plague affecting your people. We are sorry for your suffering. Elder Sumi, we need help. Our best scientists can't find a cure for this bioweapon. We're hoping Velkan biotechnology might be advanced enough to succeed where we failed." Elder Sumi's big eyes studied his face carefully. Ambassador, creating a cure for an alien bioweapon would require enormous resources. It would mean converting much of our civilization's production to focus on your problem. Why should we do this? Taehyun felt his heart sink. It was a fair question. The Velkans had no reason to bankrupt themselves helping humans. They barely knew each other. Elder humans and Velkans have always been friends. Have we? Elder Sumi interrupted gently. We have been neighbors, Ambassador. We have traded with each other and maintained peaceful relations. But friends. Most. Humans do not even know our species exists. Then why did you come here? Elder Sumi was quiet for a long moment. Tell me, Ambassador, do you know the names Do-hyun, Minho, Gina, Somin, and Kyung? No. I'm sorry. I don't. Do you know about the evacuation of Kepler 442b 50 years ago? Taehyun searched his memory. I think there was some kind of rescue mission during the hegemony expansion. But I don't know the details. My people do. Elder Sumi's voice became very soft. We know every detail. 50 years ago, 5 humans saved 30,000 Velkans from extinction. They risked everything for people they had never met. Their captain Do-hyun told our leader not to worry about repaying the debt. He said sometimes doing the right thing was payment enough. Elder, I don't understand what this has to do with... It has everything to do with your request, Ambassador. Elder Sumi stood up, her movements careful but determined. 50 years ago, Elder Thos promised those 5 humans a debt that could never be repaid. Today, I am here to begin repaying it. You mean you'll help us? Ambassador Taehyun, we will do more than help you. We will save you, just as you saved us. Elder Sumi's silver eyes reflected the station's lights like mirrors. Every Velkan alive today exists because 5 humans cared enough to risk everything for strangers. Now it is our turn. But Elder, the cost. The cost does not matter. Honor does not calculate costs. She moved toward the door, then paused and looked back at him. Ambassador, please send us all the information your scientists have gathered about this plague. We will begin working immediately. How long do you think it will take? However long it takes, Ambassador. We do not abandon our debts. After the Velkans left, Taehyun sat in his office trying to understand what had just happened. A species he barely knew had just promised to save humanity because of something that happened 50 years ago. Ming Yu, he called to his aide, I want you to research this Kepler 442b evacuation. Find out everything you can about what really happened. There. Yes, sir. Should I also start preparing medical data to send to the Velkans? Do that too. And Ming Yu, start praying that 50-year-old promises are stronger than impossible odds. Outside the embassy windows, the stars looked the same as always. But Taehyun knew that somewhere among those lights, an entire alien civilization was preparing to risk everything to save a species that had mostly forgotten they existed. He thought about Captain Do-hyun and his crew, dead for decades, who had no idea that their moment of kindness was about to echo across the galaxy in humanity's darkest hour. He thought about debts and promises, and the strange way the universe sometimes balanced its books. And for the first time since the plague began, Ambassador Taehyun allowed himself to hope. On the planet Haven, Elder Sumi called an emergency session of the Velkan Council. Representatives from every city, every district, every family group gathered in the Great Hall where their people made their most important decisions. The hall itself seemed to sense the gravity of the moment. Its living walls pulsed with soft blue light, and the air carried the scent of deep water and ancient promises. "My people," Elder Sumi began, her voice carrying to every corner of the vast space. "The children of the Five are dying." A murmur went through the crowd. Every Velkin knew who the Five were. The names Do-hyun, Minho, Gina, Somin, and Kyung were carved into their history, their culture, their very souls. "How many are infected?" asked Counselor Wonho from the northern districts. "All of them," Elder Sumi replied. "Every human world, every colony, every station. 40 billion souls face extinction within months." The hall fell completely silent. In Velkin culture, the silence of deep water was reserved for the most serious moments, when life and death hung in the balance. Elder Sumi continued, "Their scientists cannot create a cure. Their allies cannot help them. They are alone, just as we were alone 50 years ago when the hegemony came to destroy us." Young Counselor Nari stood up. She had been born after the evacuation, but she had grown up with the story of the Five, humans, like all her generation. "Elder, what do they need from us?" "Everything," Elder Sumi said simply. "The bioweapon that targets them is unlike anything we have seen. To create a cure, we would need to convert our entire civilization to biological manufacturing. Every laboratory, every production facility, every resource we have would be needed. The cost would be enormous," said Elder Wonho, the council's senior economic advisor. "Our economy would collapse. Our own people would suffer." "Yes," Elder Sumi agreed. "It would cost us everything we have built in the 50 years since the humans saved us." An old Velkin in the back of the hall stood up slowly. His skin had the deep silver color that came with great age, and when he spoke, his voice carried the weight of memory. "I am Elder Hyunwoo. I was on Kepler 442b when the Five came to save us. I looked into Captain Do-yun's eyes when he promised to help us even though he had nothing to gain. I watched him and his crew work until their ship nearly broke apart, carrying far more people than was safe, risking their own lives for strangers they had never met." The hall was completely silent now. They could have taken a few hundred of us and left the rest to die. No one would have blamed them. Instead, they called for more ships. They pushed their engines beyond safe limits. They risked everything to save all 30,000 of us. Elder Hyunwoo looked around the hall at the faces of his people who were alive because of 5 humans who had cared enough to try the impossible. "Now it is our turn," he said. "Now we must risk everything to save them." The vote was unanimous. Not a single Velkin voted against helping humanity, even knowing it might destroy their civilization. Within hours, the transformation began. Dr. Hyunwoo, the planet's leading biotechnician, took charge of the massive project. His team worked around the clock to analyze the human plague data, looking for any weakness they could exploit. "The bioweapon is incredibly sophisticated," he explained to his research team on the 3rd day. "It specifically targets human DNA, sequences, and disrupts cellular repair mechanisms. It's designed to be absolutely lethal to humans while being harmless to everyone else." "Can we create a cure?" asked his assistant, Dr. Nari. "Maybe, but it will require biological compounds that don't exist in nature. We'll have to manufacture them using our biosynthesis technology." "How much would we need to produce?" Dr. Hyunwoo looked at the calculations on his screen. "Enough to treat 40 billion humans across hundreds of worlds. We're talking about the largest manufacturing project in galactic history." The scope of the task was staggering, Every Velkan city began converting its industries to biological production. Factories that made food stopped making food and started making medicines. Schools became research laboratories. Art galleries became synthesis chambers. The Velkan people worked with a determination that amazed even their leaders. Families moved into communal housing so their homes could be converted to production facilities. Artists put down their brushes. To tend bioreactors, teachers became laboratory assistants. "Why are you doing this?" asked Dr. Yunji, the human scientist who had been studying on Haven when the crisis began. She watched Velkan children helping to maintain the biosynthesis equipment instead of playing games. Young Bora, who had been her guide months earlier, looked up from the bacterial cultures she was tending. "Because the 5 did it for us. When Captain Do-yun could have saved just a few of us, he found a way to save all of us. When his ship was breaking apart from the weight, he didn't leave anyone behind. But this is destroying your civilization. Your people are giving up everything." "Dr. Yunji," Bora said, with her big silver eyes serious and calm, "what good is a civilization that forgets its debts? What value does prosperity have if it comes from abandoning those who saved us?" The work continued day and night. Velkans pushed their biosynthesis technology beyond anything they had ever attempted. They created new forms of bacteria that could produce the needed medicines. They built organism ships that could carry living cures across the galaxy. They turned their entire planet into one massive pharmaceutical factory. But there were problems. The biosynthesis process was incredibly complex, and mistakes meant starting over. Equipment broke down under the constant use. Some of the experimental organisms died, taking weeks of work with them. "We're behind schedule," Dr. Hyunwoo reported to the council after 2 weeks of continuous work. "At this rate, we won't have enough cure produced before the plague kills most of the human population." "What do we need?" Elder Sumi asked. "More facilities, more people, more resources. We need to push our civilization beyond its breaking point. Then, that is what we will do." The order went out across Haven and to every Velkan colony in space. Emergency measures were implemented that would have been unthinkable under normal circumstances. The planetary government took control of all resources. Luxury goods production stopped entirely. Art, entertainment, non-essential services, everything was suspended so that every Velkan could contribute to saving humanity. Citizens worked 20-hour days, sleeping in shifts so the bioreactors never stopped running. The elderly and children did whatever jobs they could handle. Even pets were trained to help with simple tasks. The planet's ecosystem began to change as massive biological manufacturing altered the very air and water. Streams ran different colors as they carried away the byproducts of synthesis. The sky took on new hues from the atmospheric changes caused by billions of bioreactors working simultaneously. "Elder Sumi," Dr. Hyunwoo reported after 3 weeks, "we're succeeding, but the cost is enormous. Our economy has completely collapsed. Our infrastructure is failing. If we continue at this pace, it will take us decades to recover. And if we don't continue, humanity dies." Elder Sumi looked out the window at her transformed world. The beautiful cities she had known her entire life were now industrial complexes devoted to a single purpose. The canals ran with strange colors, the buildings hummed with the sound of biological machinery, and the air itself felt different. "Dr. Hyunwoo, how close are we to producing enough cure?" 2 more weeks at current production levels. "But Elder, we're losing Velkans to exhaustion and accidents. Our people are dying from overwork." "How many?" "Hundreds so far. Maybe thousands before this is over." Elder Sumi closed her eyes. Hundreds of her own people dying to save billions of humans. The math was clear, but that didn't make it easy. "Continue the work," she said. "The 5 gave their lives to save us. We can do no less to save them." She looked at the portrait on her wall. 5 young humans standing together, their faces showing. The determination that had saved an entire species 50 years ago. "We are coming, children of the 5, she whispered. "We remember our promise." Fleet Commander Wanho had never seen anything like it. Every Velkan ship in the galaxy was gathering above Haven: cargo haulers, passenger transports, private yachts, mining vessels, research ships, even old civilian craft that hadn't flown in years. The orbital space around their world looked like a mechanical constellation, thousands of ships waiting for their cargo of hope. "Commander," his communications officer called out, "Dr. Hyunwoo is reporting from the surface. The cure production is complete." Wanho felt his heart skip a beat. After 5 weeks of the most intensive manufacturing project in galactic history, they had done it. They had produced enough biological cure to treat every human in known space. 40 billion doses of medicine that could save an entire species. "What about the time limit?" he asked. "The cure remains viable for 72 hours after production. After that, it breaks down and becomes useless." 72 hours. 3 days to get the cure from Haven to every human world in the galaxy. Under normal circumstances, it would take weeks just to reach the nearest human systems. "Commander," his navigation officer reported, "I've calculated the delivery routes. We have 437 human colonies and stations to reach. Even if we push our ships beyond safe limits, we can't possibly reach them all in time." Wanho looked at the massive fleet surrounding his command ship. Thousands of vessels, but still not enough. They would need to split up, each ship taking cure to multiple destinations, flying faster than was safe, pushing their engines until they broke. "Open a channel to all ships," he ordered. The communication system crackled to life, connecting him to thousands of Velkan crews scattered across the fleet. Ship captains, family crews, elderly pilots who had come out of retirement, young people, flying their first missions, all of them ready to risk everything to deliver hope to dying humans. "My fellow Velkans," Wanho began, "today we carry the most precious cargo in the galaxy. In the holds of our ships lies the salvation of the human species. 40 billion lives depend on what we do in the next 72 hours. He paused, looking out at the sea of ships surrounding him. "The distances are vast. The time is short. Many of our ships will not survive the journey. We must push our engines beyond their limits, fly faster than is safe, take risks that no sane pilot would attempt. Some of us will not make it home." Through his viewports, he could see the lights of other ships, thousands of them, each carrying their share of the cure that would save humanity. 50 years ago, 5 humans risked everything to save us. Captain Do-hyun could have saved just a few hundred Velkans and called it enough. Instead, he found a way to save all 30,000 of us. Today, we follow their example. We do not save some humans, we save all of them, or we die trying. The response came from thousands of ships at once, a chorus of voices united in purpose. "For the 5! For the debt! For honor!" The great fleet began to move. Ships scattered in every direction like seeds on a cosmic wind, each carrying its precious cargo toward human space. The fastest ships took the furthest destinations. The largest haulers took multiple systems. Even the smallest personal craft carried what they could to nearby human outposts. Captain Nari commanded a mid-sized transport called the Living Current. Her destination was the Arcturus system, home to 3 billion humans across 5 worlds. The journey would normally take 6 days. She had to make it in 2. Engineering, she called to her crew. How much can we push the biodrives? Captain, if we run them at maximum for 2 days straight, we have maybe a 30% chance they don't burn out completely. And if they do burn out, we'll be stranded in deep space with no power and no way to call for help. Captain Nari looked at the cargo manifest on her screen. 5 million doses of cure, enough to save everyone in the Arcturus system. She thought about 5 humans who had once pushed their own ship beyond safe limits to save her ancestors. Push the drives to maximum. We're not stopping until we reach Arcturus. Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out on hundreds of ships. Vulcan crews worked desperately to maintain engines that were running far beyond their design limits. Biodrives that normally pulsed with gentle rhythms now hammered with desperate urgency. Ships that were built for careful, efficient travel now screamed through space at velocities that made their hulls shake and their crews pray. The deep memory, carrying cure to the Sol system and Earth itself, suffered complete engine failure halfway through the journey. Captain Hyunwoo, grandson of the elder who had witnessed the original evacuation, faced the horrible choice of drifting in space while Earth died. Captain, his engineer reported, the main biodrive is dead. But we still have the auxiliary systems. If we cannibalize life support and artificial gravity, we might be able to jury-rig enough power to limp to Sol. How long would that take? Maybe 18 hours. But, Captain, without life support, we'll be breathing recycled air and hoping our suits hold out. Do it! They flew through space in darkened ships, their crews wearing emergency suits, breathing stale air, hoping their makeshift repairs would hold together long enough to deliver salvation to the humans who didn't even know they were coming. The gentle tide reached the Vega colonies with 6 hours to spare, but its captain, Elder Borum, collapsed from exhaustion during the final approach. Her crew had to take over the landing while she lay unconscious in the medical bay, her old body finally giving out after pushing herself too hard for too long. The Current's hope made it to the Proxima system just as its engines finally exploded. The ship drifted into orbit around Proxima Centauri b with no power and a hull full of holes, but its cargo of cure was intact. But for every ship that made it, there were others that didn't. The Living Harmony suffered catastrophic biodrive, failure in the Tau Ceti system, and crashed on an uninhabited moon, its crew of 12 lost with their cargo. The Deep Promise was destroyed when its overstressed hull finally gave way to the pressures of extreme acceleration. Back on Haven, Fleet Commander Wanho tracked each ship's progress with growing anxiety. Reports came in constantly. Arrivals, failures, desperate repairs, heroic sacrifices. The Vulcan fleet was scattered across half the galaxy, racing against time itself. Commander, his communications officer reported, we're getting confirmation from human worlds. The cure works. Colony after colony is reporting successful treatment. The plague is being stopped. Wanho felt tears running down his face. They were doing it. Across hundreds of worlds, billions of humans were being saved by Vulcan crews who had pushed themselves and their ships beyond all reasonable limits. What about casualties? He asked. 43 ships lost so far, Commander. Maybe 500. Crew members dead or missing. 500 Vulcans dead to save 40 billion humans. The mathematics of sacrifice were stark and simple and heartbreaking. Sir, another officer called out, we're getting a transmission from human space. It's on all frequencies. Put it through. The voice that came over the speakers belonged to Ambassador Tae-hyun. To the Velkan fleet currently delivering the cure to our worlds, we don't know how to thank you. We don't know why you're doing this for us. But we want you to know that humanity will never forget what you're doing today. You're saving our entire species. Commander Wonho looked out at the stars where Velkan ships were still racing to deliver hope to the last few human worlds. Some of those ships would not make it home. Some of the crews listening to this message would be dead before the week was over. You are wrong, Ambassador, he said quietly to himself. You will forget. Humans always forget their own rescue. But we remember. We always remember. And that is why we came. In the final hour of the 72-hour deadline, the last Velkan ship reached the furthest human outpost with just minutes to spare. The cure was delivered. Humanity was saved. But the cost to the Velkans was enormous. Their fleet was scattered and broken across the galaxy. Hundreds of their people were dead. Their economy had collapsed, their resources exhausted, their civilization pushed to the edge of ruin. And still, from every Velkan ship came the same message broadcast on all frequencies. The debt is being repaid. The five are honored. The promise is kept. 6 months after the great delivery, Haven looked like a world in ruins. The beautiful flowing cities were dark and broken. The canals that once ran crystal clear now carried the waste of exhausted bioreactors. The living buildings that had pulsed with gentle light now stood gray and still, their biological systems drained beyond recovery. Elder Sumi walked through the capital city, her footsteps echoing in streets that should have been full of life. Most of the Velkans had moved to refugee camps on the outskirts of the cities, while engineers tried to repair the damage caused by 5 weeks of impossible production demands. "Elder!" came a voice behind her. She turned to see Counselor Nari approaching, her young face marked by the exhaustion that had become common among all their people. "The Economic Council has finished their assessment. How bad is it?" "Complete collapse, Elder. Our manufacturing base is destroyed. Our biosynthesis capabilities will take decades to rebuild. Most of our fleet is scattered across the galaxy with broken ships and stranded crews. Food production is at 20% of normal levels." Elder Sumi nodded sadly. She had known the cost would be enormous, but seeing the actual numbers made her heart's ache. "What about casualties?" 732 confirmed dead from the manufacturing effort. Another 412 lost in the delivery fleet. Over 1,000 of our people gave their lives to save the humans. They walked in silence through the empty streets. In the distance, they could see Velkan families living in temporary shelters, their homes converted to bioreactors that had burned out during the cure production. Children played with simple toys made from scrap materials, their usual luxuries gone. "Elder," Nari said quietly, "some of the younger generation are asking questions." "What kinds of questions?" "They want to know why we sacrificed everything for humans who don't even remember what we did for them. They've seen the human news broadcasts. Most humans don't even know the cure came from us. Their governments are claiming credit for solving the crisis." Elder Sumi stopped walking. This was what she had been afraid of. "What are they saying?" "That the debt was paid 50 years ago when we lived good lives on Haven. That we didn't owe humans anything more. That we destroyed our civilization for people who will never appreciate the sacrifice." "And what do you tell them?" "I don't know what to tell them, Elder. I was born after the evacuation. I learned the story of the five, but..." She paused, looking around at the ruined city. Was it worth this? Was honoring a 50-year-old promise worth destroying everything we built? Before Elder Sumi could answer, another voice spoke from behind them. It was Elder Hyunwoo, the oldest of their people, leaning heavily on a walking stick as he approached. The great effort of the past months had taken a terrible toll on his ancient body. "Come with me, child," he said to Nari. "Both of you. There is something you need to see." He led them slowly through the damaged city to the Hall of Memory. The building's living walls had turned gray and dormant, but the holograms inside still worked. The images of the evacuation 50 years ago played in endless loops. Captain Do-hyun promising to help, the 5 humans working desperately to save people they had never met. "Tell me, young Nari," Elder Hyunwoo said, "what do you see when you watch these images?" "I see humans helping Velkans during a crisis." "Look closer. What do you see in their faces?" Nari studied the holograms more carefully. "They look determined. Scared, but determined. They look like people doing something impossible because it was right," Elder Hyunwoo said. "Captain Do-hyun's ship could barely carry 50 passengers safely. He packed 7,000 refugees into it because he refused to leave people behind. Engineer Minho tore his own ship apart to make room for more people. They pushed their engines beyond safe limits, risked their own lives, called for help from their fleet." "Yes, Elder, I know. The story. Do you? Do you know that Captain Do-hyun died 3 years later in another rescue mission? Do you know that medic Gina spent the rest of her life treating refugees from war zones? Do you know that pilot So-min never took another safe assignment, always volunteering for the dangerous rescue missions?" Nari shook her head. "The 5 didn't save us and then go back to comfortable lives. They saved us because that was who they were, people who couldn't walk away from others in need. They made a choice that day, and then they kept making that same choice for the rest of their lives." Elder Hyunwoo moved to another display showing more recent images. Velkan ships racing through space to deliver the cure, Velkan scientists working until they collapsed, Velkan families giving up everything to save humanity. "Now tell me, child, what do you see in these images?" "I see us sacrificing everything for humans. I see us becoming worthy of what the 5 did for us." Elder Hyunwoo's voice grew stronger despite his frail body. "For 50 years we lived comfortable lives because of their sacrifice. We grew prosperous. We built beautiful cities. We became a respected species in the galaxy. All of that existed because 5 humans cared enough to risk everything for strangers. But the humans don't even remember us helping them. Do you think the 5 cared if we remembered them?" Elder Hyunwoo asked. "Do you think Captain Do-hyun saved us because he wanted statues and ceremonies 50 years later? Or do you think he saved us because it was the right thing to do?" Nari was quiet for a long moment. "Because it was right. Honor is not about being remembered, child. Honor is about remembering. We remembered what the 5 did for us. And when their people needed help, we responded the same way they did, with everything we had." "But look at what it cost us," Nari said, gesturing toward the ruined city beyond the hall's walls. "Our civilization is destroyed. Our people are living in refugee camps. Hundreds of our own are dead. Was it really worth it?" Elder Hyunwoo smiled sadly. "Young one, let me tell you a secret. 50 years ago, when the 5 were working to save us, their ship was breaking apart. Their crew was exhausted. They could have stopped at any point and said they had done enough. But they didn't stop until every last Velkan was safe. Yes, I know. Do you know what Captain Do-hyun said when Elder Thos offered him payment for the rescue? He said doing the right thing was payment enough. He said something else too, something that wasn't recorded in the official histories. Elder Hyunwoo looked up at the holographic image of the 5 humans. He said that the measure of a species wasn't in their technology or their wealth or their power. It was in what they were willing to sacrifice for others. What are you saying, Elder? I'm saying that a civilization built on the graves of others is not a civilization worth having. I'm saying that wealth built on forgetting our debts is not wealth worth keeping. Elder Hyunwoo turned to face both of them directly. We could have let humanity die and lived comfortable lives in our beautiful cities. But what kind of people would we have been then? We would have been practical, Nari said, but her voice sounded uncertain. We would have been the kind of people the 5 would never have bothered to save in the first place, Elder Hyunwoo replied. The 5 didn't save us so we could become selfish. They saved us so we could become better. Elder Sumi had been listening quietly, but now she spoke. The young ones have a right to question. We destroyed our civilization. Our people are suffering. And yes, most humans don't even know what we did for them. Then why don't you regret it? Elder Hyunwoo asked her. Elder Sumi looked around the Hall of Memory at the images of the 5, humans who had changed the course of history with one act of kindness. Because when I die, I will be able to look Captain Do-hyun in the eyes and tell him that we kept faith with what he did for us. Because when human historians eventually discover the truth about who saved their species, they will see that honor can still exist in the galaxy. Because my people proved that some debts are worth paying even when no one is watching. She turned to Nari. Child, you ask if it was worth it. Let me ask you something. If your family was dying of plague and someone bankrupted themselves to save you, would you care if they remembered your name? Or would you care that they cared enough to try? I would care that they tried. Then you understand. We didn't save humanity so they would remember us. We saved them because we remember what it feels like to be saved. Outside the Hall of Memory, the sun was setting over the damaged city of Haven. In the temporary refugee camps, Velkan families shared simple meals and told their children stories of the 5 humans who had taught them what honor meant. And in the holographic displays that still work despite everything, the images of Captain Do-hyun, Minho, Gina, Somin, and Kyung continued their endless vigil, watching over a people who had proven worthy of the sacrifice they made 50 years ago. Dr. Borum had always been curious about the small inconsistencies in historical records, but this one was driving her crazy. The official reports about humanity's salvation from the phantom blight all credited human scientists and allied governments for developing the cure. But the more she dug into the archives, the more the story didn't make sense. The cure appeared simultaneously on 437 human worlds within a 72-hour period, she said to her research assistant, Jin-yuk, as they worked late in the Earth Historical Society archives. The official story says it was developed by human laboratories and distributed by human ships. That's what all the textbooks say, Dr. Borum. But look at these shipping manifests. She pulled up data on her screen. There's no record of human ships leaving major colonies during that time period. All human vessels were under quarantine to prevent plague spread. So how did the cure get distributed? Jin-hyuk leaned over to look at the data. Maybe military vessels? Emergency medical ships? I thought so too, but I checked the military logs. Most of the fleet was dealing with panic and maintaining quarantine zones. They didn't have the resources for a galaxy-wide distribution mission. Dr. Borum had spent 3 years studying the plague crisis, trying to understand how humanity had managed to save itself so quickly and efficiently. The more she researched, the more questions she had. "Dr. Borum," Jin-hyuk said, "I found something strange in the communications logs." "What kind of strange?" "There are thousands of ship identification signals from that time period, but they're not human ships. The identification codes are from Velkan vessels." "Velkans? Why would Velkan ships be in human space during a quarantine?" "I don't know. But there are records of Velkan ships arriving at human colonies just before the cure was distributed." Dr. Borum felt her heart start beating faster. This was the kind of discovery that could change everything historians thought they knew about the plague crisis. "Jin-hyuk, I want you to pull up everything we have on Velkan-human relations during that time period. Trade agreements, diplomatic contacts, everything." They worked through the night, following a trail of evidence that painted a very different picture of humanity's salvation. Velkan ships had indeed been present in human space during the crisis. Medical logs showed that the cure itself was biological in nature, the kind of sophisticated biotechnology that humans couldn't produce, but that Velkans were famous for. "Dr. Borum, you need to see this," Jin-hyuk said, pointing to an old diplomatic message. "It's from Ambassador Tae-hyun to the Velkan government, requesting medical assistance." "When was this sent?" 5 days after the plague started. But here's what's interesting. The Velkan response came back within hours. And look at what they said. Dr. Borum read the message. "Ambassador Tae-hyun, we will help your people as you once helped ours. The debt of Kepler 442b calls us to action." What's Kepler 442b? I don't know, but let me search for it. What they found next changed everything. Buried in old military archives were records of an evacuation 50 years earlier, a small human diplomatic mission that had stumbled across a dying Velkan colony and had somehow managed to save 30,000 refugees from extinction. "Look at the names on the rescue ship," Dr. Borum said, her voice filled with excitement. "Captain Do-yeon, Engineer Minho, Medic Gina, Pilot Soman, Communications Officer Kyung." Those aren't familiar names from human history. "No, but look at this." She pulled up another file. "These are Velkan cultural records that were digitized as part of an academic exchange program. Every reference to humans includes these 5 names. They're heroes in Velkan society." The more they researched, the more incredible the story became. The 5 humans had saved the entire Velkan species from extinction 50 years ago. When humanity faced the same threat, the Velkans had bankrupted their entire civilization to return the favor. "Dr. Borum, this is amazing, but how do we prove it? Most of this is circumstantial evidence." "We asked the Velkans directly." 2 weeks later, Dr. Borum found herself on a transport ship to Haven, carrying the most complete research file she had ever assembled. When she arrived at the Velkan world, she was shocked by what she saw. The planet that had been described as a paradise in old travel guides now looked like it was recovering from a war. Cities were partially rebuilt, infrastructure was basic, and many areas still showed the scars of massive industrial conversion. Her guide was a young Velkan named Hana, who worked for the Cultural Ministry. As they flew over the damaged landscape, Dr. Borum asked the question she had traveled across the galaxy to ask. "Hana, did your people create the cure that saved humanity from the phantom blight?" Hana's big silver eyes reflected surprise. "Dr. Borum, do humans not know this?" "We know someone saved us, but our records say it was human scientists." It was not human scientists. It was every Velkin alive. Hana's voice carried a mixture of pride and sadness. We converted our entire civilization to biological manufacturing. We produced enough cure for 40 billion humans in 5 weeks. Our fleet delivered it to every human world in the galaxy. Why? Because 50 years ago, 5 humans saved our entire species from extinction. Dr. Borum felt tears running down her face. The 5 from Kepler 442b. You know their names? Captain Do-hyun, Engineer Minho, Medic Gina, Pilot Soman, and Communications Officer Kyung. Hana smiled. The first truly happy expression Dr. Borum had seen from any Velkin since arriving. You do know. Come. There is something you must see. They flew to the center of the capital city, where a massive structure dominated the skyline. It was the Hall of Memory, but much larger than before, rebuilt as a monument to both the 5 humans and the Velkins who had died saving humanity. Inside, holographic displays showed the entire story. The original evacuation 50 years ago, the plague that threatened humanity, the massive Velkin effort to create a cure, and the heroic delivery mission that had saved an entire species. We lost over 1,000 of our people saving yours, Hana explained as they walked through the exhibits. Our economy collapsed. Our cities were ruined. But Elder Sumi said that honor is not about being remembered. It is about remembering. Dr. Borum spent 3 days on Haven interviewing survivors of the great effort, recording their stories and documenting the truth that had been hidden for years. When she finally returned to Earth, she carried with her the most important historical discovery of her career. The revelation spread through human space like wildfire. News broadcasts carried the story across hundreds of worlds. The truth about humanity's salvation became the subject of documentaries, books, and historical analyses. But more importantly, it sparked a massive outpouring of gratitude and guilt. Human governments, which had taken credit for solving the plague crisis, now found themselves faced with the truth of their salvation. The Velkin species had literally sacrificed their civilization.